everybody, and welcome. Today is actually International Women's Day, and we'll be interviewing an influential woman, Sister Norma Pimentel. She is an influential woman and has become quite well known. So we have close to 80 people who've joined us, so welcome to all of you. I'd like to begin by telling Sister Norma and some of our viewers, maybe some of our new guests, a little bit about Strangers No Longer, our organization. We're a network of Catholics and others who hear the message of the scriptures, Catholic social teachings, and Pope Francis to love, to act with justice, and to honor the dignity of every human person, as well as the sacredness of all creation. So with Strangers No Longer, we try to become knowledgeable and share the knowledge that we have about the experiences and cultures of immigrants who come to our country and hope to join us. We stand with them in support at a grassroots level when needed. And we advocate for policies and laws that reflect these values at both a state and a national level. And we work in those ways, meeting with our congressmen, setting up rapid response teams, at times going to court on an individual level with people, seeing ways that we can really touch their lives. So that's kind of what we do. And I am pleased today to introduce Sister Norma Pimentel of the Missionaries of Jesus. Let me tell you a little bit about Sister. Welcome, Sister. I haven't really welcomed you yet. Sister Norma was born, and tell me if I'm telling the truth at the end of this, Sister. Sister was born in Brownsville, Texas, where her parents had come from Mexico and applied to reside. Sister says that she was born an American by chance. We would say lucky. Interestingly enough, during the time that time in the U.S. when she was born, she was able to go back and forth across the border quite easily. And so she was really able to absorb both cultures, the American culture and her Mexican culture. And that was really, as we look back, that was such a gift. As a young woman, Sister went on to college and she earned a fine arts degree. And then later, when she joined a religious community, she completed a master's degree in theology and a master's in counseling. And you will see, all of this really prepared her for the work that she was going to do. For a number of years, Sister Norma has been the executive director of the Catholic Charities in the Rio Grande Valley and has established many of the respite services to help immigrants seeking asylum in this country. As a part of this effort, she established and is the director of the Catholic Charities Humanitarian Respite Center in McAllen, Texas. It's close to the McAllen Detention Center. Sisters work in coordinating the communities, churches, and immigration and border services in that area have been remarkable and compassionate. Now, each day, the Federal Immigrant Detention Center releases to the respite center where Sister is in charge large numbers of immigrants who at this point have permission to be in the U.S. And we're going to be asking Sister a little bit more about what does that really mean. These services through the years, I understand, were going relatively well and maybe even smoothly until a couple of things happened. Sister spoke out against the Trump administration's family separation policy and drew national attention for her work and her stand. A tribute to her emphasized that she acted both with compassion, stressing the very nature of the human family bond and the need for humane policies to support that. Also in 2010, Sister was recognized on Time magazine's list of 100 of the most influential people, apparently in the world. She's been interviewed on a number of programs such as 60 Minutes in 2020, and she's frequently asked to speak, and we feel quite fortunate today. Then in July of 2021, just last summer, the Texas state and local leaders restricted the ability of these services to assist arriving immigrant families. In response, Sister released this statement. Catholic Charities responds to families in crisis. We believe that human beings who have no food, no security, no access to showers, etc., are people in crisis. We will continue responding to the needs of these families in crisis as long as there is a need. So there is so much going on in our world today. Right now, everybody's mind is filled with the Ukraine and the crisis there. So many things to give us anxiety and to worry us. It is Sister Norma's plea and our challenge not to forget the ongoing plight of those people who are requesting asylum here in this country. So it's a privilege for us to meet you, Sister Norma. Welcome. We would love you to tell us about your work, your community efforts, your collaboration, and your challenges. So I would like to begin, Sister, by asking you a couple questions. And the first one was kind of a new one I added today, if you noticed. What community resources did you work around in the Rio Grande area to organize in response to the surge of those Central Americans who came to us seeking asylum? Can you tell us a little bit about what you put together and worked for?
Yes, of course. And thank you so much for your invitation to speak before you and to join you in being one presence to respond to the needs of humanity, and especially those who need us. Back in 2014, we saw a devastating situation here at the border. Families in our community, families from this area, saw in our community at the bus station dropouts of immigrants that the Border Patrols was making, and they were leaving them at the bus station without any direction, without any sense of what to do or where to go or how to get on a bus. They were hungry, dirty, scared, frightened. Children were crying, dehydrating, and that circumstances was heartbreaking. And we moved to respond and to help them. And so I took the lead to organize a humanitarian response for these families, these people that we saw. Had no clue what was happening or why this was happening. All we saw was that there were mothers and kids and children and families that needed help. And so everybody that saw was moved and touched and wanted to do something about it. And so I called the local priest that has a parish just one block away from the bus station and says, let me borrow your parish hall for a couple of days, and well, 3 years later, I was still there and now we were all there. And so thank God that the priest was Franciscan. I think maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not sure, or it was just God that was present in all of us. And we all knew that it was something we needed to do. And so the resources that really came about from that day forward was, for one, is social media. It was amazing. We start calling, they say, call your friends, have them call their friends and tell them we need Pampers, we need milk, we need food, we need this, we need that. And things just poured, literally poured. And we had mountains of items that were just coming in all day long. And the response was overwhelming. The care, the generosity of everybody wanting to help, wanting to be part of a response that was so clear. It's living out the gospel, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked. It was there before us, and we move forward with an open heart to do that. And so I think that everything fell in place. People stepped up. The city government stepped out and says, anything and everything you need, sister, we're here to help and to help you because we believe in what you're doing. I think the key in all of this was the fact that I made certain that it was not political. This is not about politics. This is not about left and right. This is simply about humanity, people in distress, and us responding to their needs. And so everybody identified with that. There was not a governmental organization that would say, no, sir, we can't help you because it goes against what we do. And so helping another human being in distress didn't go against nobody's policies or rules of conduct or anything. It was what was the right thing to do. And so the resources were right there. And social media was a key factor in bringing this to light to everybody's, and everyone heard what the needs were and they responded. They wanted to be part of it. And so this, I would say, was the key factor that actually opened the doors. And of course, the media also serves in that purpose. People started to see. Immediately, they saw what was happening at the border. The fact that there were families in distress and the community responding and wanting to help. And so people stepped up and said, how can I help you? And I would like to reach out to you and offer our assistance. And so I don't know if this answers your question, but that's how we got started.
And Sister, I understand, it sounds like from things that I've read that you have really developed quite a positive experience with border control and ICE or immigration services. Sounds like you work well together.
Yes, definitely. Right from the beginning, it was something that the city government was saying. I said, you know what? I need to speak with the Border Patrol. I need to speak with ICE. I need to speak with city government so that we can understand what's happening and how we can work together. And so we did, we organized a meeting where we all came together and really simply stated, it would help if I knew how many people you're going to drop off so that I can better know how to make me prepared with the food I need, if it's for 10 people or is it for 100 or 1,000, and so that started initiate that they would all text me and let me know beforehand how many people they were preparing and releasing. And so right now, almost every Border Patrol agent has a speed dial, Sister Norma,
Wonderful. Which brings me to one of my other next questions. It's like, could you tell us about your work at the Humanitarian Respite Center? And a lot of people aren't quite certain about what does that mean. When they go to the detention center, what is that for? And if they're released into the US, what does that mean? Some questions like that. And are people sent across the border from there, or do they not make it to the detention center? They just tell us how that all works, if you would. That's
certainly
my second question.
Of course. Okay. So, when somebody enters the United States, just so you know, the United States right now, the border is closed. It has been closed since the previous administration. President Trump put that in place more than anything because of the pandemic. He used the pandemic as a way to create a shield that would keep people out and in protection for the agents and anyone in the United States so that we are not exposed to the virus in case it would come through the river. And so the border got closed. And so it continues to do so under what they call Title 42. And so when somebody attempts to enter the United States through the points of entry, which is the bridge, they can't. The agent will stop you and say, sorry, you can't come in. You don't have a specific permission to enter, you can't come in, and so everybody's turned back. So if you want to enter illegally or what they call irregular, then you enter through the river, right? And so when you enter to the river, more than likely, because the border is closed, the agent will just simply send you back through the bridge and says you can't be in the United States, you're going back. So they send them back, And so if they cannot send them back to Mexico, which in most cases they will, all of them, they will then deport them by expedited removal and send them back to their country. If they can't send them back to their country, then they'll send them back to Mexico. And only those people that they cannot send back are then released to us because they are vetted and they determine that these are families, they're not criminals, then they are allowed to remain in the United States and proceed their asylum procedures at their points of destination. So at the moment that they're apprehended and processed, they are sent to a detention facility to get processed. There they determine that they fall under certain criteria that they can allow them to remain in the United States. They give them a little document that states, you have permission to remain in the United States until further notice. In other words, you have to report to the immigration office where you're going, and there you need to receive a date for a hearing and start your process of asylum. And so that is the process. So when they bring them to us, Border Patrol already processed them and determined that this family can travel and can be legally in the United States to continue that immigration process, to determine whether they have permission to remain or not. They need to go through a court system. And so that's the process that happens. I don't know if this answers your question.
Pretty much. And so that means that anybody who is released by from the detention center to you, it does not yet have a court date. They receive that later when they report to authorities. Okay, fine. But they are allowed to be, do they have to have a sponsor in this country to be allowed to?
Well, not necessarily. They have to have an address where they're going, okay?
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me just see if there's anything else here. Okay, one of my questions would be how many people are probably dropped off at the respite center on a daily basis? We've heard large numbers.
Yes, we've had a lot of people since 2014 to today. I would say we're over 200,000, maybe 250,000, maybe 300,000. We lost count since that first day we started in 2014, in summer of 2014. Some days, like last year, we had very high numbers, maybe 2019, we also had over 1,000 people were drop off every single day at our humanitarian respite center. It happens in different times of the year, different times administrations. There has been peak numbers of where there's very high numbers of people that are processed and released into the United States. They give them permission to continue and remain here. Right now, the numbers are very low. They have been low since last year, right after our highest peak, which was around September. Right after that, in October, numbers started to drop off to almost 50, 100 at the most, and we have to continue to like that up until today. The numbers continue to be quite low. That doesn't mean they're not entering. That means that when they reach the point, the border, they cross into the United States, Border Patrol will process, determine whether they have to be sent back, because more than likely almost everybody is sent back to Mexico because of under Title 42. Others are sent back to their country by expedited removal, and the others remain here. So because they have an extreme, very intense effort in sending back people, the numbers are very low for us, okay?
And when you mention people being sent back to Mexico, we have heard and understand that for those who are coming up to the United States through Mexico, or possibly those sent back, that it's very dangerous, that Mexico does not particularly like these strangers who are passing through. We've told that it's very dangerous for women. And someone mentioned to me the term organ harvesting. Is that something you've heard about?
Yes, well, when people go through Mexico and through the different countries, not just Mexico, but it's particularly Mexico, it's not so much that Mexicans don't like these people. It is that, especially in Mexico and other countries as well, there's a very strong presence of organized crime. And these are people who are criminals, people who are like the cartel, gangs that actually exploit the families, and they make money of the immigrants. They will kidnap them and put them in stash houses, and if they can, they will rape the women. If they can, they will traffic the women and the children. And
Yes,
so
yes.
organ parts become also a way of making money from them. And so there's ways, so many ways to exploit these families. They're very
Right.
vulnerable and very at high risk. But it's because of this organized crime that exists all over the world. And it's not just in Mexico, everywhere, you know. And so they find it that very convenient to make money out of these families.
Thank you for that. Let me just check here. My next question is this. Because of your experiences your experiences with the Trump administration and those things, what opportunity, you've had some opportunities to become known and to need to make statements about what the work you do. So what opportunities for change have you encountered resulting from your national recognition?
It's true that because of the attention that has been placed on me and the recognition of the work that I'm doing, it puts me in a platform that I can really speak up in defense of these many families that I see daily that are very exposed to dangers and abuses, and how we must recognize our responsibility to provide the care any human being needs and deserves. And so I think that the more attention that is placed on me, the more I find the responsibility in making sure the world sees the families that I see and how they hurt, and how it is only right for us to feed the hungry and care for those that need the care they need.
You know, from the things that I have read or heard your statements, that really comes through. The love of your work and the love of working with these people who are kind of hidden people. They're not, you know, they're not famous people. They're not important people. But your love of working with them and supporting them and making their needs known really comes through your work. I just want you to know that we have really noted that.
Thank you.
I understand that there have been some political challenges in Texas attempting to limit the work that can be done with immigrant families or for immigrant families. Can you tell me about some of those challenges, and is that limiting the way you work? I'm speaking about the legislation or the state representatives, et cetera, who challenged you last summer, I believe.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's true that unfortunately our country has become a ping pong battle with politics, you know, and they use immigrants as their platform to strengthen their position as politicians, you know, whether they're for or against, you know, and honestly, immigrants become pawns in their hands, and so it's not so much about the facts, but rather about how they can distort the message so that they can give credit to themselves as doing something to protect our country. And so politicians especially here in Texas, we have found that they put out policies that are out to just limit the work we do as if we're doing something illegal. But it's nothing illegal, because they want to make the families that we respond to illegal, when honestly they have a document that states I have permission to be in the United States, but they refuse to see that because they want to make a political statement of how they're saving the state of Texas, or they're saving the United States in protecting us from these families that are here illegally, and trying to limit us from actually helping them by putting out policies that will stop us from taking them to the hospital or taking them to the airport, you know. And so I think that we will continue to do what we see is our role as people of faith, you know, that We will continue to take a child to the doctor if they need a doctor, and things like this. It's so good. To the good fortune of us, we haven't been stopped. Even though some such policies has tried to keep us from doing that. I think they decided to focus elsewhere rather than in us, and so they have allowed us, and we continue to assist and help and do our work in ministering to the most vulnerable and fragile in our society today, the immigrants.
Thank you. So that really has not really limited your services then?
Not at all. We continue 100% to service and to provide the care we need to do. So we, at least up to this point, that's what we've been able to do.
Well, all right. And so now what I'd like to do is open this discussion a little bit more to some of our members who you met before we went live here. And so would each of you now who are on our little panel, would you please turn on your cameras and your speakers? So I think you saw the faces earlier, Sister, but some of them would like to tell you a little bit about what they do, what we're doing here to work with this community that you initially helped, and they have a question or so for you. So I'd like to begin with Rosemary Inslee. Rosemary, would you tell what you do? And
thanks, Kay. Thanks. I work with the board and my circle, and just a note that through Alianza Americas, a transnational group of immigrant-led organizations, we support a shelter near Mexico City, one of the way station shelters coming up. And so it's been a real education for us, what folks go through. And my question, it's kind of a two-part question for you, I think brief. What do you have need for volunteers at your shelter in the work that you do from folks that might come in for a week? And then the second part of my question is, what keeps you going? You speak really positively, but you see tremendous pain every day. So I'm interested to know what keeps you going.
Thank you, Rosemary. Volunteers, right now we don't need them. Actually, we always do. I never turn down anybody who wants to come to the respite center, no matter how many volunteers are at the respite center. Literally right now we have like 2 or 3 or 4 groups because of spring break, okay? And so we have a lot of universities that are actually making time to spend their spring break with us. And so I spent all these days, all this week, since yesterday, today, with speaking to one group, another school, universities from throughout the United States, which is amazing. And so we don't have a lot of refugees, but there's a lot of work to do. And we have a lot of children, and so the kids get to play with them, and they help us organize and sort and things like that. So you're always welcome, because honestly, your experience and your presence makes a difference. And coming here to the border and being part of a response for humanity is something that you need to be part of. So you're always welcome as volunteers. And what keeps me going? I think that the only thing that sustains me, and I keep hearing this all the time, people that pray for me. How amazingly, it's unlimited the number of people that reach out to me and call me and tell me. Just yesterday, I had this lady, 92 years old, from Tennessee. She's from Honduras. She has never met me, but she calls me to tell me she's praying for me and that she loves me. And so people like her, and I have religious communities and groups from different denominations saying, we're praying for you, sister. Believe me, I think it holds me up. And also, when I am with children and with the families, and I see them smile and laugh and play, and that gives me life. And it's for them that I will get up every morning and do what I need to do to continue doing what I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. And now, next, Sister Martha, would you like to tell Sister what you do, the group that you work with, and your questions for her?
Sí, bueno, buenas tardes.
Indeed, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Sister Norma. I am Sister Marta de la Torre. I am also a religious member of the Mary Reparation Congregation, and I am part of the staff of Strangers No Longer. And I coordinate the circles of support for migrant women whenever they are provided with a space to share their experiences. And also we offer them strengthening emotionally, socially, and spiritually. And currently, thank God, we have 53 women in our groups who are participating in 6 different circles of support. And one or the thing that we would like the most is for them to be aware of the strength that they have within themselves to become agents of transformation in themselves. And that's very that provides lots of hope for our organization. And I have one question for you, sister. We are aware that whenever there is commitment for justice, whenever you choose to work for those who are most vulnerable, there are always challenges that you need to face, and there are difficult situations that arise. And so, in your path towards supporting migrant people, what has been the challenge, the greatest challenge that you have faced in order for dignity of these people to be not just respected but also valued?
¿En español?
Spanish
Okay.
or English? Okay, Sister Marta, I have witnessed from the start the huge support from all the community. Everyone joined, everyone, we became part of a church, a community, not looking at the differences of which church do we come from or what race are we from. There's a beautiful union that most recently has been seen in not in local people, but people from abroad, foreigners who are has been noticed by them, by people who are attacking using misinformation, changing the true reality towards distortion and destruction of it, of the good things that are being done in the community to support their neighbors are being twisted, and they are making it seem as if, you know, it's a tactic that is strategically meant to destroy God's plan, destroy what is being done, the good deeds done for the people, for migrants, for people who are suffering, with an interest of an express open interest of simply supporting, of reinstating their dignity. However, those, you know, there is a strong, an enemy strength, an evil strength or force that has penetrated some people in order for them to want to destroy that beautiful thing that God is doing with the people, with all of us. And that's what's most difficult for me, to see people who I would say, you know, they are good people who have common sense to acknowledge and to see the good things, but however, they distort and claim, okay, they are trafficking children, they are causing violence against women, and so on. That is to say, on the contrary, and they are wanting to destroy the good reality of children, apologies of God in all of us, and to turn it into something that's bad. So that's what's been the greatest challenge that I have faced more recently in this year. Thank you very much, sister.
Thank you. Thank you. And now, sister, we'd like you to meet Doris Bartolone, one of our women who is in our women's group support groups. Doris, would you like to talk with sister and tell her where you're from and what you do, and ask a question or two?
Hola a todos, buenas tardes,
Hi everyone, and good afternoon. Sister Norma, it's such a pleasure to be able to meet you. You know, my name is Daris Bartolon. I'm originally from the country of Guatemala. Currently, I live in Detroit, Michigan, and I am part of the Women's Circle of Support, Migrant Women's Circle of Support under the protection of God. listening to you and all of the work that you've done, I would like to thank you sincerely for the hard work that you are carrying out on the border for all of the people who need this help. I will tell you a bit of my story. In the year 2016, we arrived at the border precisely to McAllen, Texas. And I and my two girls who were minors, and I had the privilege of being able to receive the support that you provide. Unfortunately, I was not aware of, or I don't know where I ended up at that point. So unfortunately, after being in a detention center, which was also in McAllen, Texas, and then we were sent to the church. Afterwards, I was able to see that you do work a lot. And like you've already mentioned, without looking at people's religion, color, or which country they come from, we were able to receive their food, take a shower, put on clothes. We were also able to receive information of how we could travel to the place where we needed to arrive. Or also, you are provided also some information, guidance on what is the process to start the migration process, or how do you go to ICE and the appointments, which I think is very involved. It's something that is working closely with all of this information. And at that point, we did not feel alone. I remember not feeling alone. From that point onwards, I began feeling a force of sisters, sisterhood, because from that moment onwards, I was able to receive the information that I had to about what things I had to do when I was here in Michigan. So my sincere gratitude on behalf of all of those people that you have been able to receive and who have received the support you provide. Thank you. Thanks a million. I would like to ask you now, in truth, where do you carry all the strength and the courage to face on a daily basis all of the setbacks that, are placed by workers from the state, the government, or migration? I don't know how you could say, because you do need to be very strong. And so thank you so much, Sister Norma. Over. Thank you, Daddy.
Y lo que has pasado y donde estás ahora me da mucho gusto.
Thank you for sharing your reality, what you've gone through, and the place where you are. I'm very pleased to know that you are currently in Michigan and you're receiving support there, and that you are realizing yourself as a woman, finding yourself. Thank you. It's so good that you were able to receive support when you were here in the country, the praise and the care that you needed, which, like every person, you have a right to and deserve. So it was great that that was provided to you. I believe for me to see you, to see a mother suffering, a mother who's experiencing need, and to provide them with a reason to smile, to give them a hug, for me is my way to come closer and say, you're not alone. God loves you. I'm here with you because He's with me. He's in thousands of people who support me so that you are well. So I think it's what God makes in all of us. He gives us that fire, that strength, so that we can, always, whenever, regardless of our exhaustion, to bring in this fire that it leads us and moves us forward. So it's great that you were one of those who received that love from someone who received you here. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Darice. Thank you, sister. Amy, would you be so good to tell what the work you do? But before you do that, would you explain a little bit about Darice's daughter's needs and what has happened there?
Well, sure. And Darice can share it better than I, but just very briefly. So Darice has a daughter who needed to receive some medical care. And so when she, in very severe medical care, right, Darius? So when she arrived, she was able to, the community here was able to put her in contact with the Shriners Hospital in Chicago, where she has been receiving the treatments and surgeries that she needs, and is still continuing those today. So we're grateful that Darius and her daughter are able to receive the adequate and very necessary medical treatment.
That's so nice. That's very good. I'm glad you're
Very
there.
grateful. We're very grateful that the resources exist here and are available to her. So, and then to speak a little bit more broadly to my work with Strangers No Longer, I am very inspired by the leaders like Darius and the many other women that she walks with. And in response to them and their stories, we have circles of support in parishes, in over 20 parishes in our southeast region of Michigan. And these circles are primarily not immigrant folks, not recent immigrants, primarily English speaking, and they have somehow been touched in their hearts by the stories of immigrants and by the gospel to want to reach out and do something to support. And so they accompany families like Darius' family and others. Actually, next week, one of our circles is going to be holding a prayer service while one of our leaders has her court hearing. They educate the parish, and Darius has been crucial there too. She shares her story with churches and schools in our area, as well as some of her colleagues in her immigrant circles. And the circles at the parishes also talk about Catholic social teaching around immigration and the legal system, why it's so hard for folks to be able to come legally, and trying to dispel some of those myths. And then advocacy. And I think this is an area that we are rapidly growing in and very excited about, and being able to advocate on the federal level, on the state level. Here, undocumented folks do not have access to a driver's license. So that's something that our circles have met with our state representatives about. And then on the local level, trying to make our municipalities more welcoming. And certainly through all of this, we have encountered in different spaces some resistance, and sometimes even from, within our own churches and communities, our families, what have you. And so I'm curious if you could expand a little more on the question that you responded to of Sister Martha's. So in that response, I guess when you are dealing with this biggest challenge, right, of the folks who take this issue and they turn it around, they turn it into something it's not, they turn it political, what have you, or they don't want to get involved because it's too political. How do you respond, or how would you suggest that we respond?
I'll respond with one time I had this lady walk into my, when we had a shelter, and she told me right up front that she was 100% against helping illegal aliens. And I said, well, thank you for letting me know. Let me show you what I do and why. So I recommend is that you help them come and see, help them understand what actually is happening. I think that it's not about making them the other, but helping them see that we're part of one, and it's the only way that it's going to work is for us to come together as one, and so just like the parable in the scripture where the shepherd leaves the 99 to go look for that one that goes astray. Well, that one is the one that has in their mind something is not right. I don't agree, or I don't see it the way you see it. And I think what you're doing is wrong. I think they need to listen to what they're saying, and then try to then respond to why it is. Why is it that you are responding the way you are? Help them understand that, help them, let me share with you why I'm moved to help these families, and let me introduce you to Daris, you know, and her little girl, you know. Let me show you why God has moved me to help. You know, when I had this lady come to our shelter, she was very angry and very negative about the whole idea of what we were doing. When I showed you her what we were doing and why, she changed 100%. She said, "Sister, I'm 100% in favor of what you're doing. Don't be afraid of responding back with who you are and what moves you and why you do what you do." I think that the core of the right answer is with you, you know, and why you're moved to do and who you are is because God is the one that's moving you forward. And so I always turn to God to say, this is your people, God. This is I'm doing this because you're making me do this, you know, you're telling me that this is important. Help me convince this person that this is important, you know? And so I think that it goes to that, you know, the answer is within you.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Sister Norma, so far. I think we've taken quite a bit of your time, but we have not heard yet from Bill O'Brien, our leader. And I'd like to thank you, Sister Norma, very much. And Bill, do you have anything you'd like to ask Sister Norma or say to her? You're not on speaker. You need to unmute.
I got too excited. Listen, you know, when Sister Norma, and I'm kind of addressing myself to the 50-some people that are in the webinar, that when you talked about the people that are praying for you around the country and actually around the world, we're there. We're a part of that. You know, and this thing of being one, you know, our way of being one might be to invite you to Michigan. Come and just hang out for a couple of days. I tell you, if you came here, you'd go home tired. This would not be a vacation. We would, if you know, so this is all by way of prayer for you and for our people.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Bill.
But when Sister Magda, I don't know if you know her, Sister Magda works with the Catholic, you know, the Bishops' Conference in Mexico, but she was here and we, you know, I think she left pretty tired. So we'd love to have you here with us. We have, like Texas, we have when you described the woman that came in and she was 100% against you and then she was 100% for you and the people. Our situation here sometimes is sort of lukewarm. Jesus talked about people who were lukewarm, that we have Congress people and senators that are sometimes lukewarm. And so having you with us, we could get you and, you know, help. You could meet a lot of people and be able to talk. Bishop Flores, so I think you're in the diocese, right?
Yes,
Bishop Flores. Bishop Flores came from Detroit, you know that.
Yes.
And when he was here in October, I heard that he spoke to all the priests of the Detroit diocese, so like 200. And that after that, he had a meeting and there were at least 30 priests that met with him after lunch, and the reception was really good. So we'd like to just invite you to be with us. And so by way of prayer, there's, I don't know, did you want me to do that now?
Sure.
Well, anyway,
Yes.
Sister Norma, you have an open invitation.
Thank you,
Anytime.
Bill. I accept your invitation. And we'll be happy to go and be with you any day that I'm available. Yes.
Okay. Well, we might ask you for a couple of days so we can get you around the state.
Yes.
We ask for a lot.
I'll get to know Detroit, huh?
Well, Michigan.
Well,
We're talking
Michigan.
Oh,
Michigan. Yes.
There's
yes.
actually, I think we could get you into at least 4 dioceses. A goal would be to get you around to 4 dioceses.
Make sure you work with Joanne, my staff, and she's the one that controls my time.
And Kay Sofaro, I think, has been talking to her.
Yes,
right?
yes. She's been very, very helpful. Well, so Bill, would you, sister, before we leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Thank you for your support, your prayers, your love, and for it is what keeps me going. It is what holds me up, you know. And so, gracias.
Thank you. And that it was an invitation. I hope you got the fact that you're invited.
Yes,
So-
I did. I
Good.
accept your invitation for
Yes.
sure.
So Bill, would you please close with a little prayer for us?
Sure. I'm gonna use the prayer that I like a lot, and this prayer helps me think about what Sister Norma talks about in terms of building. I'm not sure the right word, but building the reign of God, that building community of God, that where we are all one. And it was written by a man that I thought was very secular, but it was the author of Zorba the Greek and Last Temptation of Christ. His name was Nikos Kazantzakis. And so these are three kind of prayers. And so I'd like, Amy reminded me about the Ignatian tradition, to try to imagine yourself in the same room as Jesus, or walking along the same path, or riding a mule with Jesus. So like everybody, to just do what you can to imagine you with the Lord. My prayer is the report of a soldier to her general. This is what I did today. This is how I fought to save the entire battle in my own sector. These are the obstacles I found in Brownsville in Michigan. This is how I plan to fight tomorrow. Number 2, my God and I are horsemen. We're galloping in the burning sun or under a drizzling rain. We are paled, starving, but we are unsubdued. We ride and we converse. Leader, I cry. He turns his face towards me, and I shudder to confront his anguish. And I might say, let us never look away from the Lord and the Lord's anguish. Our love for each other is rough and ready. We sit at the same table, we drink the same wine in this low tavern of life. Amen.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you so
That
much.
really brings home the need here at our southern border, and goodness knows the Ukraine. So thank you, everybody, for this. Thank you, Sister Norma, so much.
Gracias. Muchas
Yes,
gracias.
yes,
a
people,
todos.
yes, we clap and no one can hear, but we clap. Thank you. All right.
Adios.
Adios.
Adios. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, that is.
That's